Okay, YouTubers, this is going to be a video for a friend of mine. It is a craft, I guess you could call it, that I learnt how to do to make my outdoor experience more fun and enjoyable and rewarding, all those kind of things. I learned how to make my own snares for coon and coyotes. This right here is a coon snare. It basically consists of these little parts you see laying there plus the cable. This is the swivel. This is a washer that will go right there on the swivel. These are 832, I believe they're 832 nuts. And I bought a whole bunch of them, put them in a crucible, and then build a fire and let them heat up red hot and cool down real slow to take the temper out of them so they're real soft. And this is a pig ring. It's used as a breakaway device. In Ohio, you either have to have a breakaway device or a deer stop, which will only let this loop go down to a 2-inch circle about the size of a snuff can. What this will do is it'll open up, you can see it right here, it will open up and let a deer loose if you happen to catch a deer in it. It'll be able to pull hard enough that that'll just open up and release and the deer can run off. Now the thing to remember is your snare stop, your breakaway device, and your swivel are all reusable. If you catch a coon in a snare, by the time you get to him, he's going to have that thing twisted around every tree and just completely ruined. It'll be all kinked up. You can still use it as a extension, so if you wanted to just fasten your snare to a tree, you could turn this into just a loop at each end and then reuse them as extensions if he hasn't chewed on it too much. But the cable I use, that got kind of oily, it's 5/64, there's 1,000 feet of it. It's 7x7 galvanized aircraft cable. This is my coon snare material, and for coyotes I use a 3/32 7x7 aircraft cable. It's a little bit thicker. You can see them both laying here. You can see how much thicker this one is than this one. And in a real survival situation where there's a rule, the rule without law, or however they say it, world without rule of law, you could probably snare a deer with this if you just set it in the right place and didn't use the breakaway device. And it'd be a silent way to catch a deer. Now these are a releasing lock, so when you go to the coon, he's going to be alive. These aren't a killing snare. He's just going to have this wrapped around him like a collar. So let me show you how to make one of these things. Here's the tools you'll need. Basically a hammer, a cable cutter, pair of pliers, and I'm not even sure you need those. This is a big nail, and these are the things I use to make my swivel. And I bought a bunch of heavy wire, and this is the wire. I bent it like that to make my swivels. You can also use those, you can buy them at the Home Depots and stuff like that. They make them to staple down that weed barrier you put in your flower beds. They come in like boxes of 50 of them, I think it is. And they're just shaped basically like that, and you just stick them in the ground through that weed barrier. But I made a bunch of my own. Let me get set up to show you how I do this. Okay, this is how I set up. I have my spool of wire hanging on a bolt over there, and then right over here you can see I have a couple marks on my bench. That's where I pull the cable out to. Running out of room in my shop. I just pull the cable out to here and cut it off at the spool. And that'll give me the right length for my snare. Now let's go over here. Okay, the first thing we need is a swivel. And I made this to clamp in my vise. It's a 1-inch piece of steel, and I've got a hole drilled in it that I can slip my nail in. And this is a little crank handle that I made. You put this around here, or you put the ends of the wire in the 2 outside holes. The nail goes in the center hole. I haven't done this in a while because I've got a whole bunch of these already made. Then basically you start cranking it. And it winds around that nail. There's what I need that pair of cutters for. Pull that out of there. Pull that off. Then you try to cut these off so that it won't snag on the snare cable. So there's your swivel. Now I'll show you the way I began making them when I wanted a bunch of them. I made this for my big drill. Same thing, you slip your nail in here, slip your pieces in the outside holes, put your nail in the middle. Well, I didn't hold it back far enough. Didn't hold it in tight enough. Like I said, it's been a while. That one's a failure. See how it's all opened up here and too loose. Let's try it again. Out of practice. This stuff is pretty thick and tough. Come on, here we go. That one's a little better, but I need to practice up on it. We'll use that first one I made by hand. Get this out of the way. First thing we need to do is take one of those nuts and hammer it right here at the end of your cable. I try to find it so I hit it on a flat. You don't want to get too carried away because it can cut the cable, but it'll look like that. Then you take that washer and you put the washer on, and then you thread this on here. So there's your swivel. That can turn around on there. You put your stake through there, and that's how you fasten it down. Or you can put an extension cable on here and then fasten it to a tree. Now we got to do the other end. Okay, I forgot to show you the little snare locks that I use. This is one that I'd taken off of a snare that I'd caught a coon. It's kind of dirty. But the way you put it on is like this, because in the end you want it to be able to slide this way, but when you want it to slide this way, but when the coon tries to open it up, you want it to lock back so it can't slide the other way. Then you bring it around and go back through this hog ring. So you got a loop like this. Then you get another one of those nuts and put it on the end. I don't like to have a lot of cable hanging out. Well, I think I just screwed that one up. Sometimes those nuts, if they tip over when you hit them, they won't stand upright. I'll do another one. Gotta cut a little off of this cable. So basically that nut then comes back and is held in place with that hog ring. So you try to get your snare, see how it'll close down, but then when it wants to open it won't. It'll close but not open. But now to load the snare, see how it's kind of not round, but it has a natural curve to it. The snare just automatically has a natural, the wire has a natural, or cable has a natural curl to it. So you want to get it so that curl you want to pull it around something round like this to get it so it wants to snap shut. For some reason this thing's not wanting to cooperate. I don't know if my 1 inch is too big. Might have ran that through there. See how it's wanting to set on top of that cable? There we go. When you're done and you set a coon snare, the loop is going to be I always went about from my bottom of my hand to my thumb. That's about how big you want the loop. But we got to get it so that when a coon just bumps it, it just swirls shut. Let me show you one that's done. This in here is a snare that I did a long time ago. And you want to get it set so it just drops like that. See how I just touch it and it just springs down? I see what I didn't do. You want to take the end of the snare. Too much? Yeah, I need a different pair of pliers. Take a pair of needle nose and see how the loop is. You want to bend the end of this backwards on the loop, like that. You want to get it bent a good 90 degrees, like that. See how it now hangs a lot better in that loop. Everything is lined up better now. I think this is too big around. I'm going to do it on the handle. Getting closer. Once you get the hang of it, you can actually get it sprung too much. See, I just sprung it too much. See, it's all wanting to curl up now. See how it just curls right up? Well, you don't exactly want it doing that. I don't know if there's a way to undo it. But this can always be used as a extension. Let me shut this off and work on it a minute. Well, I'll tell you what I did. I ruined this one. It's just not gonna cooperate. But you get the idea. You get something a little smaller diameter like the handle on this vise, and then you don't bear down on it quite like I did. I was just having too much trouble. But what you want is for it to spring shut when a coon touches it, like this other one I have that I made. You set the snare about that big in the trail, and you want the lock set not quite at 12 o'clock, so when the coon goes through there and touches it, it just comes down on him, and then it won't open back up, and you got your coon. So that's how you make a snare. And that's how you make a bad snare, but you get the idea. What I'll do is I'll just cut my swivel off, cut the ends off, just put a loop at each end, and then I can use this for an extension on a snare. I'll show you how to do that. Okay, I took the swivel and everything off. Get a nut. And just make a loop. This is the end that's all kinked, so it's going to be a little bit of trouble. So there's a loop. We'll put a loop at the other end. Okay, now I got my snare cable, or extension cable, with a loop at each end. What you would do is, if there's a tree close to where you want to put your snare, you just put this through there. Now, wrap it around the tree, like so. Pull it down tight like that, around the tree. Put this through there. Put your snare through the loop. Get my finger out of there. Now you got it fastened to a tree, and you can go about 6 feet away from the tree and put your snare out. I have another thing to show you. I use these wires, and at the end I'll bend it like that. I think the ones I use are longer than this. And then you just put your snare like that. And you can adjust your angles and stuff. To get your snare standing where you want it. And the coon walks through. You got him. I have a different set of pliers that'll bend that a little tighter. And you should have a pair of pliers on your trapping route, because you might have to bend these back a little bit that way or forward, you know, according to how you want it. Or you can take these and wrap them around a tree. It's handy to get the snare hanging where you want it on the trail. Hope this was helpful. I hope it wasn't too long. Thanks for watching.